Hello and welcome to the Entertainment Biz Show presented by Vouch. I'm your host, Justin Jacobson. As a reminder, nothing here is intended as legal advice. It's for educational purposes only. Vouch is a digital gig marketplace where talent and businesses can hire other pre-approved individuals to streamline talent searches and where industry dot connectors can earn commissions for making talent referrals. Visit vouch-app.com to learn more about the world's first social utility network where it truly pays to know people. #ad. So this week's guest is Jonas, known as YoungBorra. He's a musician, a content creator, a recording studio owner, and the curator of exceptional and exclusive nightlife experiences in NYC. Thanks for joining us.
How are you, Justin? Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. I think that they were exceptional and exclusive. Not only exclusive, but the right people in the room.
Right.
And my hat's off to that because that is a very tough feat in today's day and age where everyone thinks that they deserve to be in every room. And realistically, we know that's not the case.
No, that's correct. So, I mean, we do the best we can in everything we can, for sure, in keeping the room nice.
Amazing. So to start, tell us about your work as a musician in the entertainment space. How'd you kind of get started and what kind of music do you play and create?
Cool. So yeah, my parents, my mom was a Broadway actress, singer. My father was a saxophonist, pianist. And I grew up doing musical theater, kind of gave way to sports. But as I got older and slower
and taller.
Yeah, taller. I was always like, hey, music's something I really wanted to do. And I was a side man in a bunch of bands. Growing up, guitar player mainly, sometimes bass. I sang a little bit. A few years ago, 2018, 2017, we you've helped me with this. I started putting out my own stuff, and I'd like to consider my personal music that I put out as YoungBorra as being kind of like throwback indie pop music. It's a bit of nostalgia, early mid 1980s new wave kind of fan. I like that era of music because it has the, at the time, modern synthesizer instruments, but mixed with like the 60s and 70s songwriting, intro, verse, chorus, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge. They're still telling a story with the music. So with my stuff, I try to do that with a little bit of a modern twist. And I continue to push that narrative with the stuff I write. But yeah, that's part of what I do. That's my night job, so to speak, the passion project that I really, really love and I'm continuing to do.
So who are some of your musical influences? I know you're mentioning a genre, but who are some artists that always kind of stick out to you?
Well, rest in peace on most of these people. Rick Ocasek from the Cars, and obviously, everyone loves David Bowie, Prince and Michael Jackson. Everyone's passed away. And my ex, Flavia, actually really kind of made me start listening to this stuff in my early mid-20s. And I grew up listening to a lot of jazz and jam bands. I was a big guitar player, so I liked Van Halen, of course. And I always kind of poo-pooed pop music. And she was just like, no, you should start listening to this stuff because the guys that you like, these instrumentalists, are the people that are playing on these records. Like the session musicians are the ones getting hired to play all these. And I'm like, oh my God. I'll give you an example. The drummer Dave Weckl, he's big in like the jazz fusion world. He's a tremendous, tremendous player. And I used to go watch him at a club called The Bottom Line, which is now owned by NYU. The club's gone. But Dave Weckl played drums on a bunch of Madonna albums. So case in point. And then I started listening to those albums. And I'm like, it's pop music, but there's still a lot going on. And I started having a lot more respect for the pop music and the process of writing it and creating something that, might have been really complicated, but then they kind of make it listenable for the average audience. Just the woman that's going shopping in the grocery store, hearing that music, how it translates from a pop radio hit on like the Z100 into your car on the radio, on TV, on MTV, so you're getting consumed by all different age audiences. That whole process of making something into a pop music sensation always was thrilling to me. So, I named some of the artists, but the whole process has always been fascinating.
Right? It's always unique when you see these artists are using the best and most talented musicians, right? To get the best performance and to kind of give it that unique flavor that they bring to the table.
Absolutely. That's why even now, with all the computer writing, still Taylor Swift and those top level artists still use the best live musicians who can really perform and have honed their craft through hours and hours and hours of practice.
Right. I always think about someone like Robert Randolph, who's just like, you might not know him, but like you hear him live and it's just like another world. And he could be the backup, band for a big artist, or he can have his own show, and he's just a really talented musician, and you just want those kind of people performing with you.
Correct. Robert's actually a very good friend of mine, so it's pretty cool that you bring him up. And a guy that's been playing for a very, very long time. One thing about music, and we'll talk about this, because of the ease of technology, and I work in the nightlife space, we'll talk about that too. Producing music is not as difficult as it used to be. The barrier
or DJing for that matter.
Or DJing, exactly. So anyone that can operate an iPhone can kind of DJ. You don't need to go buy the physical records anymore. You don't need to go pay for a super engineer and all these super musicians to produce something that sounds okay, right? You took a Lil Nas X, takes a YouTube clip, and then produces a rap over it, and it's one of the best-selling songs, if not the best-selling song of the modern era, right, with Old Town Road. It's a sample of a sample, and he kind of did that on his own with maybe one other person. That wouldn't have been capable 20 years ago. So the process of art and how it's made and brought out has changed, but I still am a firm believer that if you put in the time and energy, you get a better product overall. Compare it to like sports. I say I want to be on the Knicks, but I haven't practiced hours and hours, and I'm not physically fit and tall and athletic, and I
can't dunk. It's going to be tough.
I'm not going to make the Knicks, But to an extent with music, we've gotten to a point where it's gotten simplified. I'm getting.
I think that's a great point to bring up. So, like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, is that good? Is it bad? Or do we want to, take away the hurdles to creativity and make anyone who has an idea be able to do it? Or is that a problem, or is it both?
I think it is a problem. I think that my dad always brings this up. I forgot. I think it's Duchamp who said, if I spit on the ground and I say that's art, then it's art. I don't agree with that. I think
fair enough.
Like, okay, here's the rules on my music studio. I printed this rule. This is an art piece.
Yeah, I mean, the color scheme and the way you center things.
I made this, so this is art now. And if I've got a big enough social media platform and I say, this is an art piece.
And you sign it, man. That could be a one of one.
Correct. Now I can sell this because I have a big vehicle on social media to sell it, and someone's willing to pay for it. Now it's got value. But let's say, Justin, I want you to bid $100,000 for this. Now I'm going to take a PR piece out and say, hey, this original placard's worth $100,000, and someone was willing to pay for it. Now we can auction it off on Sotheby's because of my popularity and my vehicle that can send this off, and now this is an art piece. This is what kind of music has turned into, where you don't need to spend the hours practicing the piano and learning your scales and your chords and your modes. You don't need to learn how to sing. You can just go to a studio, not even your home little thing, sample something, put it out on YouTube, and if you're popular enough or you crack the algorithm on TikTok, then all of a sudden you're a superstar. Now these labels find you because of an algorithm, click button on Chartmetrics, and now we sign you. Even though if you don't know what the hell you're doing, you've never left your parents' basement, and now all of a sudden you've got an audience. To me, that's dangerous. To me, we're turning people that really don't have the at-home training or any training at all into stars. I'll give you another example. LiAngelo Ball couldn't make it in the NBA, but now he just got a guaranteed $8 million contract because he's got an audience from basketball. But whether the song is good or not, he didn't put the same amount of time in that. There's probably thousands of other rappers out there that won't even get a 1/100th of a deal that he just got. We're catapulting someone because of their audience on social media as opposed to the earned skill. And this is what I was talking about with the basketball. If my dad owns the Boston Celtics, but I'm not a good basketball player, he's not going to put me out there. I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get embarrassed because those things, sports, you earn it. Just like if you wanted to be an engineer and build a bridge, Justin, or you wanted to be a lawyer and you didn't go to law school and you don't know the terminology, you don't know the paperwork, I'm not hiring you. You have to put in the time to learn the craft, and it's a meritocracy.
So you don't want me to build your next house?
No, I don't. I don't. So, no, nothing against you, Justin, but I do want you to look at my contract and advise me, right? So it's like with music, it's kind of now with art, right? Potentially art. It's a pass. It's like a pass me down career to a certain extent, where it's like, oh, I didn't make it with this, but you know what? We can have someone fake it for you. We'll produce it. We just put your name on the placard and take a picture, add some makeup, and now we could sell it on social media. So I think it's a dangerous trend that we're going down. And I'd like it to go back to, and I don't know how this happens, but I'd like it to go back to, hey, if you want to hear a band or see an artist, you got to go watch them in real life. You got to go to the show. You got to go out with your friends. And that's why the bands of yesterday, of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early
The only
2000s,
people that make money.
they make a fortune, and guess what? They're still selling out arenas, and people are going and flocking to see them.
Yeah, this Billy Joel, like,
Oh my
with
God!
Fleetwood
But
Mac, like,
all these bands that like are these guys are in their 70s. The Scorpions are in their 70s and 80s, and they are still selling out
like
arenas.
R.I.P. I saw, who was it? Tom Petty, like about a month or two before he died, and it was like he needed these backup singers to amplify what he could do because he just couldn't sing like he could, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's genetics, right?
But people still were
Oh, it
paying.
was sold out at Flushing Meadow at Arthur Ashe Stadium.
But that's what I'm saying. People are chasing these legacy artists because they actually had to learn their songs, do their craft, kind of put the band together, put in the time, play small shows, build up their audience locally, and an A&R person would discover and say, hey, this person's got some talent. Let's put some money into them. Let's work it up. Develop the artist. Bruce Springsteen, 6 records before, or it was 5 or 6 records before he actually got a hit. Now it's like you're putting stuff out online.
It's 6 minutes before you get a hit, right? It's like if your first 6 minutes, you're not a star, we're on to the next one.
Correct. Now, we were talking earlier before we were on camera about the Sabrina Carpenters of the world, who that still happens. 8, 9 years of development, but it takes a lot of trying and mistrying and a lot of
money.
And a lot of money. Millions of dollars. It's not like, just millions of gigs. It's so much promotional money behind the scenes that, and I think the people watching this, are going to understand. It's not the layman that is just a consumer and just listening. This doesn't register for them. It doesn't register. Sabrina Carpenter probably put $2 million of funding into her career before she even saw a cent back. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy amount of time and money. Personally, I put in not that much, but a lot of money that I've earned myself as just a middle-class working guy to get nowhere, to get to a point where just I have a very small boutique following. So like, and I'm someone that knows what I'm doing, relatively speaking, can play, can produce, can do all of these things. And I'm not where I want to be yet. But I think that when you take the barrier of entry, and this is what we're coming back to, when you take the barrier of entry and you expand it, and that was your initial question, whether if we allow everybody to be an artist, the value of being an artist doesn't really, it's not as exceptional. If we let everybody play in the NBA, would anybody watch the NBA anymore? If you had to watch 10,000 games
with me as the point guard.
Yeah, if you had to watch 10,000 games of really average basketball before you got to watch LeBron James, you'd probably have shut the TV off. So it's like with music, because you have to look at all this stuff on TikTok, all this stuff on YouTube, and then we're only picking people based off of a 15-second video that someone get lucky, and then all of a sudden, while they have a record out, this record sucks. So we're not consuming.
They have no performance skills. They can't actually be an entertainer.
They can't talk to anybody. They can't perform. The videos suck. It's banal, which is boringly ordinary. What are we doing? We're not letting the best product get to the top, and we're only giving people a microsecond because the money's not always there. We're not letting anybody develop. The fact that Beyonce is still winning records of the years 20 years later, and we're not developing the next Beyonce, we're not giving anybody a chance. And it's not just in music, it's in the movie business too. All these young actors.
Like George Clooney has been, and Brad Pitt have been in every movie forever.
Tom Cruise is still just as relevant, and he looks good. But plastic surgery helps. But we're not letting that next star level up, because by the time they get to a point where they can charge more money, they're done. We're going to find somebody else, and we're going to dispose of them. And the old guard of Hollywood is saying, we're going to protect ourselves, just like with the old guard of music. But where's the new guard? How can we develop anybody new if we're not allowing people to grow, both financially and giving them the platform to do it? I think needs to be some major adjustments. Otherwise, people that are in their 20s and early 30s now, when they're 60 years old, what are you going to play at your party? Like when you have your 60th birthday party and you're 20 years old right now, what are you gonna play?
It's all going to be 90s hip hop. There's not going to be anything but
but that's
90s
what I'm
hip hop.
saying. That's it. You're gonna have it's gonna be 90s hip hop, maybe some early 2000s pop music, and then it's done because everything else was disposable.
And then it's Kendrick. That's it.
But
That's all I can talk about is Kendrick.
But look, there's no artists that are in like the top 20 that come out now that you'll be talking about in 2 years. Like I can't even think about a 2019 artist or 2018 artist like that's still really relevant right now to the extent of a 1986 or a 1996 artist. Like everyone wears Nirvana t-shirts.
Or Alanis Morissette, right? She's way more famous than any of these people.
And will ever be more famous. And she has a Broadway show, so that's never going to happen. There's no artist now that's going to have a Broadway show.
And she's only Alanis Morissette, right? Like, we're not talking about the Stones, the Who, the Beatles, like these legendary acts.
Never going to happen again. It's never going to happen again where we have someone that we care about for that long period of time.
So I think that it's kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of this transformation of, entertainment from I'm a musician, I'm a producer, I'm a, vocalist, to I'm an influencer, I'm a content creator. And from me as an attorney, I've kind of seen of like, okay, like I'm really advising influencers and content creators. And how do they influence, public? How do they influence culture? By singing, by making music, by DJing, by being a culinary person, by doing weightlifting videos, by playing Fortnite. Like, this is how they influence culture, right? And the content they create is a music, an original beat, a YouTube video, a crazy origami thing using food, right? Like, this is their means for expression. And again, I think that it's just that's what society has changed into, that like people are just so much more multi-hyphenated, and that they look at people as like this brand and this influential person, and not just like, oh, they're a rapper, oh, that's a fashion designer, right? Like, oh, he's a basketball player. It's like, no, he's an influencer, and he's influential because he's a star player in the NBA, right? And it's like, it's definitely a different world, but is that just because that's who we as society, think of them as?
I think you have to do multiple things in most industries to be successful. Whereas before, what we're doing now, video podcasting and social media went from MySpace, where you could meet somebody. It was kind of like an extension of a dating.
Oh, I was a MySpacer.
Yeah, but like it wasn't as crazy as this. You would just load some pictures up. Now it's just you do everything on social media. Your whole life can revolve.
You do it for social media, right? It's like, if it's not on the gram, did it even happen?
Or it's like you have your whole business is based on TikTok. These people that are freaking out about TikTok, like, oh, if TikTok goes, my business goes. Well, then how strong is your business really? Or is your business just based on TikTok? If your business is really good, you could translate that business to any other platform or your own platform. But the fact that you had to rely on TikTok to sell your product is very, very scary. That means you're really not doing a very good job marketing. I always say this, me in my real life, if Instagram disappeared, I'd be okay.
Me too.
I'd figure it out. Just walking outside my studio right now is kind of bizarre. I just saw someone in the corner of my eye. Anyway, hopefully, whatever. We have a roof deck. Okay, whatever. I don't know who the hell he is. Hopefully not a lunatic. But anyway, the fact of the matter is, where was I? I'm lost. Justin, bring me back.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were kind of talking about this influencer culture, right? How even if you were not to have social media or to lose a platform, you would still thrive.
If I lose Instagram, nothing really changes for me because I've made my life.
You just got to text more people about the club, right?
Correct, and I'll go out to other places and I'll meet new people. I think that it's dangerous that we've created a culture based off of social interaction based from a distance, where there's no human face-to-face contact except in extreme circumstances. And to make someone famous or to make someone successful without having this is a little scary and a little daunting. And we're making people that have less and less experience with human interaction forcing them to have human interaction, and they're like freaking out, and they're like, I don't know what to do now. It's the same thing with online dating. I always say this: we're creating a generation of men that never face rejection. And what I mean by that, you go on OnlyFans, you click subscribe, you pay $1 amount each month, you click, I want a video of you doing X, Y, and Z, and I just pay for that, and it's always yes, yes, yes. When these same young guys go out with guys or girls or whatever your flavor is later in life, and you meet that person at a restaurant, and that person doesn't say yes to you like you've been getting your whole life, and you freak out on them, and you're like, what do you mean? What do you mean no? What do you mean you don't want to do X, Y, and Z? I could just click subscribe and say yes. There's going to be a huge disconnect. And I think that that's where really what we need to work on. And it's not just an entertainment. This is real life shit here. Like, you can't always be told yes and then conditioned for that. And all of a sudden, you're in human interaction in real life and you get no as an answer. You don't know how to deal with that.
It's hard. I mean, handling rejection, I think, even as someone who deals with rejection more than you hope to have, it sucks, right? Nobody likes losing. No one likes being rejected, but it's part of the universe, right?
It's part of how you grow up. By failing, you learn, so you get better. And I think that with the internet and this whole participation is key, and everyone gets a trophy, it's accelerating that.
That's a whole nother podcast, right?
Sure.
But I think that what you're trying to, and it kind of fits into this of, entertainment companies, labels and such. I don't think they really have the ability or to figure out what's going to be hot and what's going to be a success. And they almost let the market determine it based on, like you said, the algorithm, SoundCloud, YouTube views, how many reels, what the engagement is like, how many Shazam views, right? Like, to me, that's a really good metric of if people are interested in a song. If they're willing to take out their phone to Shazam it to find what it is, that means you made a big enough imprint that they want to see what this is, right? Like, these are really interesting metrics. But again, you're looking at numbers, right? You're not looking at the persona, the person, how they perform. And, they're really big creators that, like, they are great at doing what they're doing when the camera's on. But when the camera is off, it's an entirely different story. And
they're not necessarily like, I talked about the artists that influenced me. I never knew where David Bowie, what he had for breakfast. I never knew about, like, there's documentaries and he talks about his childhood, but you were watching what he wanted you to see, and only that. And it was a narrative of an artist that was bigger than life. Once you dig deep behind these people, they're all fucked up. You know what I mean? Like,
right, they're all humans, and we know how humans are.
Yeah, exactly. Like, every one of these artists was a fucking nightmare. So now it's like we're seeing the nightmare, and then we're like, oh, I want to consume that. And we're not seeing the artistry as much. The artistry is like a side note to the reality show. And I still want to be entertained by my artists. I still want to see the characters. I don't want to know that they're a fucking criminal. I really don't care about that. I want to hear the music. I want to see the story. So social media has to amplify. You have to be a content creator, not so much a musician. You have to be a content creator, not so much an actor. I think that's a problem. We're not getting the stories. We're not getting the best music. There's no Jerry Maguires coming out in the movies anymore.
Like, everything is just, we're taking something that was successful, and we know it's going to hit, and we're just going to remake it, right? Like,
correct.
Let's just take The Lion King instead of animation. Let's use CGI, right? Like,
Lion King, Sonic the Hedgehog, Wicked. These are the top 3 movies actively right now.
And they're all existing IP that's existed for 20 years and are
correct.
time
We already
tested.
knew that when I was like 9, 10, whatever, 8 years old, Lion King was out. Okay.
Yeah, and it was the biggest thing in the world, that movie.
That's what I'm saying.
And then there's a Broadway show that was the biggest thing in the world.
But what's the next Lion King? I know there's a million writers out there that are come up with a new concept, but no picture house is going to be like, hey, let's take a risk. To your point, they're using the algorithm. Now, Shazam is a good thing, because Shazam, if you hear a song that connects to you, what is that? But to even get to a point where your song is being played somewhere that someone could Shazam it, and what does it take? A lot of money.
Right.
Because the internet is not free. When the internet was free, when YouTube was new, when Spotify was new, if you put a song up on Spotify in the first 2 years, every month or every 2 weeks, it was a new algorithm. The record labels had no investment in it yet. So you could get an organic audience that listened to your shit, just like on SoundCloud. and everyone would just listen to it, and then you'd grow your audience. Now, to get up there in Spotify, to get up there in SoundCloud, to get up there on YouTube, on Instagram, you have to get by the paywall because there's so many people invested in their artists that are already well funded. So for someone like new to get to that point, you better invest into what you're doing. And if you don't invest into it, well, you're shot to hell. You got no chance. You're never going to get to the point where you can get Shazammed. It's so expensive because just putting something out there, you're either going to do it for 8-9 years and hope you crack the code over somebody else, or you got to spend a lot of money so your stuff gets a little bit ahead of the next guy. But how are you or I or some random person that's putting out music going to compete with Beyonce when she puts out a track? She already has an audience and she gets a $400,000 budget. I mean, it's a very, very tough thing. So when I see someone that's a nobody make it, I'm like, man, they did something exceptional. Got really, really lucky. Like
Or their
1 in
uncle is
10
somebody.
billion. Or you're married, or your uncle, or you've got a friend that's already big. And nepotism has obviously always existed, but now it's more important.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's one of the things of, the industry's changing and why I'm much more helping all different areas, because the indie music scene, the way to build an entertainment industry, it's like if you don't have like a real fortune to invest in it, you really can't hang, and there's no guarantee that you're going to make that money back. Chances are you're going to have to spend all that, and you're going to have to spend more to keep it up. So it's one of these, keeping up with the Joneses game, even once you get to a certain level, where like it's really not that sustainable for most people. And I wouldn't say it's a really good investment for most people, right? Like if you had $150,000, I don't think that's where you should put that money if you want to make money off of it. It's like, and that's kind of why we see this shift. Obviously you clearly have an entrepreneurial mindset. So how do you use that when you approach, content creation, the entertainment business in general?
I think that content creation, you've got two things you could do, right? If you're trying to make money from content creation, I got friends that are stand-up comedians that have a few 100,000 followers. They're not making any money. They make their money like we talked about earlier, doing the live show. Okay, but that was just one portion. Years ago, before social media, you'd make some money from live, you'd make some money from merchandise, you'd make some money from selling records, you'd make some money from selling DVDs, you'd make some money from appearance fees. Now it's like the selling the DVDs and selling the albums, that's gone. So now you're chasing all the other avenues for money that never existed. And the content creation, I think, is just a vehicle to get people to come watch you in live, in person, and then buy like a t-shirt, right? So like for me, I don't approach content creation as a way for me to make money. I approach it as a way for me to kind of tell my story and get you involved. I also don't like the word follower. I like people like
fans.
Hey, I'm enjoying your content. I'm not.
We're friends, right? We're just friends.
We're friendly. Yeah. I think that term needs to be rebranded and brainstormed about what that term should be. Like following, it's like Tom Brady's the leader of the team. I want to follow Tom Brady because I want to get better.
Right, like a follower is never a good connotation. If so, he's a follower.
Yeah. It's your follow. No. Like because there's the leaders and then there's the followers. I think it's someone like I'm going to. Give me another adjective.
Supporters. I like supporters.
Supporters is great. I'm a supporter of that person. I'm going to click that to support. That's actually a much better term. I actually think if someone, it's interesting, TikTok's going away, so everyone's flocking to the next Chinese social media app. I don't really understand this, especially from
Just
America.
For that one to be the next target, right?
Yeah. But like, I think that the next social media apps is like, I'm going to be a supporter. Let's just use that as the adjective of the moment of that person. I'm here to support. Yeah. I'm here to befriend. I am here to partake. I am here to...
Or vouch as our key sponsor.
Exactly. Perfect example. So I think that's something we need to think about, what we're doing this for. I think people that create content with the idea of making a return on the investment on the content, just like we talked about. You don't open a nightclub to make money. You open a nightclub to have people come entertain so you can make money in your other thing. You own a paper mill, you make money selling paper. You open a nightclub so you entertain the customers of your paper mill. You get what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I think that's the perfect segue. So, as we mentioned, you also host some of NYC's hottest events. So, how and why did you transition into the nightlife world, and how have you been able to curate these unique
It was
experiences?
an accident. I was not really a party guy when I was, college aged. But I started modeling with the Ford Modeling Agency, and I kind of accidentally went out with some friends, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And back then, social media wasn't a thing. So you can go to a club and every major celebrity of the moment was in the club sitting next to you because they weren't scared. The paparazzi were outside the club. Inside the club was a safe haven. So now it's like everyone's a paparazzi because they have a phone. So if you see a celebrity in the club, they take a picture of you. You're not
You go
supposed to.
up to them. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't feel comfortable. So you don't see the same amount of celebrities in the club. Now you see them in there because they're being paid to be there. Before, they would pay like everybody else. I'll give you an example. Robinson Cano, the former Yankee second baseman, he used to come out and spend a ton of money. Now the athletes come in, they're like, oh, you have to pay me to be here. Why? Oh, because they're valuable due to their content, to the fact that they're a celebrity and
Right,
we're
because they
paying.
can hit the ball far.
Exactly. So, which is crazy,
Hmm?
but the club isn't necessarily a safe space for them because some random Joe Schmo.
Could
Uh,
bump into them and step on. Yeah.
well, that's what I'm saying. You look, if you're in the club and you're drinking and you're a celebrity and you got a game the next week or the next day, and someone takes a picture of you, ooh, look who was out.
Yeah.
So and so was out till 3 in the
No
morning.
wonder you missed that layup.
Yeah, so the club world has changed, but I got into it kind of like I said as an accident. I did it as a way to kind of support my music and figure things out. I, I remember I took a day job, Justin. And we've talked about this, potentially me doing law school, and then I realized it wasn't for me. I was looking out the window at a beautiful day in the middle of May, and I'm like writing and typing, and I'm like looking outside, and I see a guy. I remember this. I was like in my early 20s. I see a guy with his golf bag, and he was running out, and my day was just kind of starting. And I'm like, no, no, no. I want to be in the golf. I want to get out there, not necessarily golfing, but I want to be out there and where the action is. I want to make my own schedule. And to me, that was nightlife. I could show up, start working at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, stay out, make my money. But then it kind of turned into a bigger career. And it's a tough business. It is a tough business because the hours suck. It's not very glamorous. It looks fun on the outside, but and it is. I throw parties for a living. Don't get me wrong, but it's not for the week. That's for sure. You got to pull long hours. You got to be constantly aware of what's going on.
And
Um,
club promoters are definitely not. I remember looking back, like, wow, once I became a lawyer and some of the stuff that went down, like, wow, luckily I wasn't a lawyer then.
yeah, but look, dealing with club promoters, dealing with drunk patrons, dealing with all the
Club
rules and regulations.
owners.
Yeah, the owners, the DJs, it's a lot, and it's all mixed together, all in one. I got into this in my mid-20s, as like late 20s, as like, oh, this is just like a side thing. I'll figure out something else. And many years later, I'm still here, full time, 6, 7 nights a week. This is what I do. And in the daytime, when I get off of this podcast, I'm going to do accounting work. So it's a constant moving mechanism, and you got to constantly keep up with it. The audience refreshes because the people that are in the club now, in 3, 4 years from now, they're going to be married with kids. It's a whole nother crop of people.
Yep.
You got to find out who's coming to town, why they're in town. You're dealing with, yes, there's still celebrities that come out. You got to find out who the new DJs are, what the new music trend is. Excuse me. It keeps you active. That's for sure. And I'm working with a big club on 41st Street called Nebula. That's a 600, 500 person plus club. So that's big, kind of open for that EDM most nights, I call that, where you've got some bigger DJs, but they're playing like electronic music. I work with a tech support, which is like a house music event brand. They throw the Circle Loco party, which is huge. That's mainly in Brooklyn. I work with Hearsay, which is the bottle club, exclusive club arm of tech support. That's in Chelsea. It's pretty awesome. That one's a tough door. It's smaller. It's
Oh,
curated.
I saw that door, my friend. It was like, it was
Yeah,
impressive. It was
yeah, it was.
impressive.
Listen, even with you, it's like you're one of my best friends for a very long time, and I was like, Justin, give me a second. Hold on, I'm gonna get you in. But like,
Yeah, right. And Justin doesn't wait a second for anyone,
I've
so
never
you
made you
knew
wait.
that.
And then all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, give me a second here. So I do that. I have a good relationship with the Tao Group. I do a party at Dream Hotel on Wednesday tonight. I have my party at PhD. That's a lot of fun. And then I do a live music party at Silver Lining Lounge, which is in the Moxie on Thursdays. So listen, did I lose you over here?
No, we're here.
Okay, good. It says reconnecting. Okay, we're good. I keep it diverse. I keep it so there's something for everybody. I got some more things in the mix coming soon. But yeah, the nightlife, that's my job. I'm happy I'm doing it. I don't know how much more time I got, but I'm gonna keep going until I can't do it anymore.
Amazing. So if anyone's lucky enough to get on the list, definitely try to check it out. So let's talk about the recording studio you own. What kind of makes it unique, and tell us a little about it.
Yeah, so I opened New York City Studios. I'm in it right now. I don't want to move the camera around just because we're recording this, but 2023, my buddy Cash, who works with me in the nightclubs, he does promotions for me multiple nights a week. He had a little studio in South Brooklyn and just one room. And I said, I want to have my own studio. And once again, it's not really, we're not making a ton of money off this. It's just kind of a passion thing where I'm spending all this money writing and producing and going to mixing guy, going to mastering guy, renting the studio time. Because I don't want to just do something at home. When I put stuff out, I want to sound great. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get involved. Let's look for something. And we found something in Manhattan, and the tenant prior was throwing illegal after hours. So the landlord kicked them out. And we went in, and I was like, look, this is a penthouse with a double-sided roof deck, and it's 24/7. We got to get in. And the rent's high, but we got into it. And then I didn't realize the hidden costs of opening a music studio. So every single thing in this room had to be soundproof, from the ceiling to the walls to the floor. Every single thing had to be opened up, and we had to re-soundproof. The door here, I'm going to open it real quick just so you can see. Okay.
Wow. It's my first tour on my...
Yeah, but see the thickness of this door?
Oh, wow. It's like a bank door.
Yeah, and this is one of the thinner ones. So we've got 3 production rooms here. And each one of these rooms had to be like custom done so they could be blasting music. There's a guy in the room literally right through this wall blasting music. I can't hear what he's doing. So I can play music in here and there and in our 3rd room, and everything's isolated. We have a living room. I've got the 2 roof decks, private kitchen and bathroom. It's super cool.
Amazing.
But it's not really it's not a studio where if you wanted to say, hey, I want to come in for an hour and just play. No, we don't do that. So it's kind of like a little membership thing where I invite people to come in, they contribute, and they get a key, an elevator key, a key to the studio, and you come in. We have a schedule, but it's great. It's kind of like a music content creation club, and it's something that we're just really kind of getting off the ground. We opened after 3 months of construction late January, so we're coming up on our year anniversary. I just put in a ton of new analog equipment. So I'm very excited. This year, I'm really going to be spending more time in here, dedicating myself more to the music stuff than other things. I mentioned to you before we were on air. You only have so much time, and time's our most valuable commodity. What you choose to do with the time you're given, it's a tough choice because you got to make sacrifices sometimes. I like to do it all. If it's up to me, I could play golf and basketball and be a super athlete, and I'd be in the nightclub and work
and then sell hundreds of bottles at night, right?
That's what I'm saying. Sell 100 bottles a night, and then come in here and write amazing pop songs and mix and match. Realistically, you can't do that. You got to make sacrifices because I can't be a Tiger Woods performance level golfer, a Diplo level producer, and a nightclub guy. Sleep, eat, work out, stay healthy so I don't collapse, and have all the money to support all this stuff. You can't. You have to make a choice about what it is you want to do. I'm just talking about me personally, but this applies to everybody. Whatever that you want to do, focus on that. And there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time to. I could do all those things. I just won't do them very well. And if you're okay with just doing it at a baseline level, sure. If you want to be a dabbler, be a dabbler. If you want to be great, you really got to hone in on something.
Amazing.
So that's what we're doing this.
So what's your favorite part about being a musician?
The fact that you can kind of make anything from nothing. Even if you're not a great musician, I'm a pretty good musician. I put in a lot of time practicing the scales and everything. I know where I am around most of these instruments. I know around my way around a DAW for producing. But I love the fact that I could just go in there with a piano and press record, and I can make something from zero. I got nothing on the board right now, and I can make something. Oh my God, I haven't heard that before. or I could hear something that inspires me. I could sing a voice note into my phone. I could bring it back to here in New York City studios in our purple room or here in our blue room, put the recording device on, boom, I got something. That's like the coolest thing ever. And I don't really need much. I really don't need much. I just literally need a MIDI keyboard, and sometimes not even that. So, music, the ability to not need a team of people, not need to really drive, a mile and a half, 100 miles, whatever, to the, like if a basketball, I want to play basketball, I got to go find the court,
You got to
right?
find people, right?
I got to find people to play against, right? This, I can make it. I can
It's
make it
amazing.
happen, and I can do it pretty quickly. And then if it's really good, I work on it. And I see it get bigger, and I see it grow, and I'm like, oh my god! Now my blank piece of paper, now it's got everything on it. Now I've created something, and it's instant gratification. It's also tormenting because you're like, that sucked, and you spend 100 hours doing some nonsense, and you're like, I hated this. But at the same time, that's what's so rewarding when you actually have something, and when the art is done and you close it, that's cool. A lot of artists say I wrote all these songs, and my most successful commercially viable song was the one I didn't like at all.
Right, and that's one they have to play the most.
Correct. And then they're playing on tour for the rest of their life. They're playing, the song that they disdain. But hey, that's pretty cool too. Yeah, how
Exactly.
things work out. So yeah, I love that about music and about art in general. There's nothing quite like it.
Well, this was amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. I think everyone here learned, a lot about what you're doing. So tell me where they can connect with you and find you. And, thanks again for being a guest.
Absolutely, Justin. Listen, I'm easily found. Whether you want to come out to the nightlife or you want to talk music, I respond to all my DMs, which is crazy. It takes a lot of time, but I appreciate if you're going to reach out to me, I'm going to reach out back. Whether you're sending me a hello or you want to get into an argument about something, if you want to, I'll engage. Let's rock and roll. Thank you so much.
So everyone make sure to follow me on all platforms, Justin J ESQ, and thanks to our sponsor Vouch.